Hello guys, you're welcome to another video on Know Your CRM 2016, and in today's video we're gonna go through the sales work area. We're done with service, so we're gonna concentrate on the sales work area now. So for the sales work area, we're gonna be concentrating on this particular video on the leads and the opportunities. Now, talking about sales actually is basically the sale of a product. Talking about Microsoft Dynamics, it actually tries as much as possible to mimic or to implement the normal sales process that you're going to have in a normal business. But now the sales process actually differs from business to business. Like I said earlier, this actually models the generic sales process that you're going to have in whole business. Sales work area. We're going to talk about the entities that are actually involved for a sale. Like the service, for instance, we know that accounts and contacts are actually involved. The same thing applies to sales. Accounts and contacts are still going to be involved, which is more like which actually is a customer entity type. Now, talking about sales itself, the leads and the opportunities are the key part of making a sale. Now, to quickly demonstrate or explain the transition between or the relationship between all these entities. Now, normally, if you're talking about a sale, a lead is more like a potential customer. Let's say you have a contact that you want to sell your product to. At that point, because that particular contact is yet to show an interest, so that particular contact can be a lead. And once you do your marketing to the lead, and the lead shows an interest, you qualify that, and that when you qualify a lead can turn to either an account or a contact. And after that, an opportunity can be created based on the interest that the lead, which by now would have turned to an account or contact, shows. So from an opportunity, you can create quotes, and from there you can create orders, and then the invoices, which we more like which is more like the final part of the sales process. To create a lead, we're gonna go to a lead, and here we have in the open leads. So to create a new lead, all we have to do is just to click on the new button. Here we are in the lead form. So in the lead form, we have to notice there is a particular chevron that is here, which is actually called the business process flow. So this is something that it's more like a checklist. Actually guides through a particular user using this. Like if you're creating a lead, it guides the user through what is meant to be done. So it is not really important in the sense that you may actually ignore the business process flow and then just concentrate on the data entry that you're going to do on this particular lead. But for a lead, as you can see, the important field here is actually the topic and the name. So let's assume that we have a particular product, a service that we want to actually sell or to render. So let's say we're going to be something like CRM training, and we happen to have a particular contact that we know that we can actually sell this particular service to. So let's assume the person is actually called John Smith. So at this point, we've entered the barest minimum entry for this particular record. So at this point, we can actually go ahead and save the record. And we have a lead called John Smith created. Now, at this point, we can go ahead to either delete or qualify. Qualify means we want to actually, it's more like a particular, it's more like saying that this particular lead actually shows an interest, and we want to qualify this lead to either be a contact or an account. And by so doing, an opportunity will be created. We can as well disqualify. Under disqualify, it's going to be more like we're losing this particular potential customer, and or cannot contact, this or no longer interested. And the other things we can do, we can add to marketing leads, which we're not going to talk about that. This is basically about the marketing work area. You can assign this particular lead to someone else. You can share this particular record, or you can email a link, which is more like a link to this record, and you can follow. There are other things you can do on this particular record. You can run a workflow. You have a workflow. You can start a dialogue, or you can switch a process, which is this process we're talking about, this sharing that we have here. We're going to talk about the sharing in a bit. We can also edit a process, and you can do a word template, like you want to export this particular record into a template, and you can run report, or you can edit the form itself if you have the privilege. I'm talking about the business process flow. Now the active one, you will see that you have this active. So what that means is, at this point, like I said earlier, this business process is just like a checklist. Now, what that means is, currently we are at the point of whether we want to qualify this particular lead. That means, if let's assume this particular lead actually shows an interest, maybe we've actually called the person, and or possibly, let's say, even this particular lead was created from a phone call. There's another thing. Rather than creating a lead directly, you can actually have a phone call being created, meaning that you may actually make a phone call to John Smith. And after that phone call record is created, you can convert that particular phone call record to a lead. So let's assume this particular person actually shows an interest. At this point, we can go ahead and qualify. Now, looking at the business process flow, at this point, these are the fields that at the point of of the qualified stage. These are the fields that are more like a checklist that you need to actually, or that the user actually needs to attend to. All these are information that you can do at this particular you can actually fill at this particular stage. To move from one particular stage to another, you can go ahead and click the next stage. By clicking the next stage, you say that it's actually asking for for an opportunity. Now, no, an opportunity is yet to be created here. Like I said earlier, an opportunity will be created when you qualify a lead. So at this point, even if you want to go to the next stage, you do not have an opportunity to select. You can see no records found. So what that means is, you have, at this particular stage, you have to qualify this particular lead to say, well, this particular lead actually has an interest in your service that we're about to sell. So let's go ahead and qualify this lead to say, well, this particular lead actually has an interest, and this process actually create an opportunity. And if you look again on the post or on the wall of this particular opportunity, it tells you what has actually happened. Now, a lead was qualified, I'm CRM admin, you can see. So, and also it was converted to a contact by John Smith. So, which means the lead that we created was actually closed, and then we have a contact being created, and also an opportunity which we are actually on right now has been created. So now, for opportunity, we are in the stage, which means we're done with with the qualification, and now we are now at the point of developing this particular opportunity. Now, like I said earlier, this is a checklist. So at this point, the checklist is more like, do we have information about the customer need? Do we have the proper solution? And do we identify? Have we identified the stakeholders? And have we identified the competitors? These are they are not mandatory fields or questions that you need to fill, but it's more like a guideline. Like I said, this is more like a generic sales process. You can edit the process to actually enforce a user to actually provide an answer to a particular to any of these questions. You can even add more questions to this business process flow before you can move to another process. So this you can do to actually you can tell this to fit for for a particular business. So to move to another stage, you can click next, and to go back, you can click on the back arrow. But we're good. But I think we're done with this business process flow. We're not gonna, actually disturb ourselves with this anymore. This is more like to quickly explain what this is used for. Now let's go into the summaries and the form itself. There are things you can enter here. You can actually provide description. If content has been created automatically anyway, so you can provide the current situation, the current need, the proposed solution, and you can provide the competitors information and also the sales team. So more like the team that is going to be involved with the sale of this particular deal, if I can use that word. And then you have the product line that that you need to actually include. Now let's quickly add. Now you have to select a product list. So we're going to create a product line item. So let's go for this particular product list item. So we're going to create an we're going to do a write product. So writing product. So let's just say we have something like training material. So let's assume the training material is actually $20, and then the quantity is just going to be 1. We're going to leave it this way, and you realize that we have $20 being computed. Now for the revenue, if you put user provided, what that means is the revenue you're going to have, the estimated revenue here is what that means is at the point where you're actually developing or working on this particular opportunity, the user will be expected to enter the value here. But if I change this to system calculated, automatically this is being generated or computed based on the line items, based on my product line items. So because I have just one product item here, which is just the training material, which is for $20, you have it being computed and you have it there. So let's add one more here. So let's put some like a write-in product. Now to quickly explain the difference between this and this, existing product is when we have a product that has already been created before. Now why a write-in product is a product you can just create on the fly. So let's say this is going to be the training course itself. So let's assume this is going to be for $120. And you can see that this has now been computed by adding this to up. And go ahead and create a code. But for this particular session of this video, we're not going to work on the code. We're going to leave that for the next video.